Well, thanks for making it out here, everybody. Thanks for hosting it on all host. If you were able to park okay, and great. If you get a ticket, send that to Christopher.Gibbons. This is great, a great venue, and it's good to be on this side for a change. So thanks for posting. Welcome everyone. Unfortunately, we don't have quorum today for consecutive meetings, and so we won't be able to approve the past minutes, but that's okay. A couple of just housekeeping items I would recommend to right across the entryway. There's an emergency, that is right to left. And also maybe get a membership over here. Usually are there any new members present or first time attendees in the room? Okay, welcome.
Sure, yes.
Doing this virtually are the first time members. Okay. Well, in a second, you're going to get to know your fellow meeting attendees and fellow members. So get ready to engage. Please observe the Open Meetings Act. Notice this is a public meeting, so anybody can be here, but the business and the for voting members of.
And I did change this to say Iowa. PDF first. Oops. We're in Iowa.
Okay. Right. See, the reason why we're speaking the detailed she doesn't listen. Thank you for that. So, get started. Before we dive, even though we can't officially ratify the minutes from the previous meeting or the meeting before that, even though we would just want to be a little bit more realistic, that's okay. The purpose of this group is to make sure we know each other, make sure we understand who does what, make sure our efforts are complementary, make sure it was time to do big things. You aren't meeting each other for the first time, that we are linked and aligned. And so the best way to do that is to share and maybe overshare sometimes who we are. So we can introduce ourselves. There's a question just meant to engage you. Sometimes it might be what's the Huskers record going to be this season, but maybe we'll use that next meeting. Or it might be, what's a legacy work for you in your position in your workplace. So today we just check in with the roles corner above. And it can be either personal or professionally. What is the role? You don't go all three. But it's either the roles that's beautiful and going well. What's a thorn in your world? The thorn is self-explanatory. Look forward with the bud, something on the horizon that maybe hasn't materialized yet, but it's promising as you're excited. So feel free to share any one of those. So take a second and think about that. And you on this one. And so this, your name, your organization, and maybe what you do for the organization, and then share a role corner above. So I'll just start to say, I'm Keith, I'm with the city of Omaha, America. I'm serving as here alongside Chris, RPAC. And I want to say, Bud, I'm in a single parent this week, and Bud for me is that Shiny gets back tomorrow. And I'm excited. The kids are getting ready for school, and Shiny will be back, and her vacation / working, and I work to restore. Take friends. So, Derek, please.
I knew you were gonna pick on me first. Derek Miller, Student Omaha Planning Department. I'm the long range planning manager within the planning department. Growth would be the baby Bob. Been working on that project for too long. Over a decade. So if you don't know what the baby Bob is, it's that small bridge or large bridge that's attached to the South Carry Bridge. And it got named Baby Bob back in the day, unfortunately, and we can't get rid of it, so it's just so. A lot of the work has been completed on that project, and it's going to open in 2 months.
Baby Bob is awesome. Thanks for the video.
I'm Sydney Embright, and I'm the planner on the long range planning team working on the comprehensive plan. And Bud for me is I became a homeowner about 1.5 years ago. And I'm finally starting to see my house kind of smell. The old house is not very functional. And it's an active construction zone, but I know it's.
Mike Jensen, County Building Administrator. Floodplain management too, and. A fun for me is really just going, go home at night. And I've got a big pond and doing yard work and things like that. It's very therapeutic for me. The thorn would be, politics. Sometimes they're all, like it is there. You have to be forgiving and humble. Just work with people and just make sure everybody's communicating.
Mark Norman, and I'm Vice President of Economic Development, Chamber, Dade County Economic Development Partnership. Begins here in Iowa. And the roles for me would be, we have a new Senior Vice President of Economic Development. It's going to be starting here in 2 weeks, Alan Goritsky. And he's been out in Lincoln, Lincoln Community Foundation for the last couple of years, but has lived in Omaha for a great period of time. Many folks I know look for the First National Bank, due to their community foundation there. So I'm excited to have that role filled again. It's been a long time since we've had somebody in that position, and so this is good for our organization.
That's gonna be great. Laura.
Laura Dietrich, Douglas County Planning and Zoning.
We might need to speak up for the people online, we've got a couple comments. Aren't hearing very well, so. No, sorry. You, Laura, I'll throw it next time.
No, I still want to talk louder. I'm gonna be very vague. I am just really enjoying life right now. That's it.
Good enough. How's that roll?
That it is.
I'm Ken Holman, Director of Environmental Services for Douglas County. In that role, I deal with solid waste and planning and zoning. Making sure that Laura
Does
gets
the
to
job.
work every day. Yeah, we control stormwater permitting, so on. My life has been consumed by debris management the last 36 hours. But that knock on wood, that seems to be going pretty well. There's a lot of great people doing lots of great things. So, my rose is my wife, Holly, and I are investors, which we love. But for the next week, for at least 2 days of overlap, we'll be back visiting. So we will go through a lot of issues and eating them, but they also food, so a little sweat activity involved. So love them. But and next Friday. Yes.
Yeah. And thank you for what you're doing. Everybody. Thank you for being here. Our company also there.
Hi, everyone. I'm gonna maybe speak just a hair longer since this is my first meeting, kind of get to know people. So I'm Stephanie Mueller. I'm the Vice President of Customer Experience at Metropolitan Utilities District. I've been there for 34 years and my areas of responsibility are customer service, business development, and corporate communication. So Rose would be, I have 2 kids. They're twins, boy and a girl. They're 24, and one just got married in May, so that was wonderful. They're starting their life together. And then that was my son, and my daughter is in her last year of grad school. And she'll have a master's in agronomy when she's done.
There's a contact with Sharon. They will speak.
I'm a guest. I
Jody Swanson, I live in Ashland. I heard about step on the news, and Ashland is definitely a growing community, and I thought it was appropriate. I'm on the Ashland Area Economic Development Corporation Board, and I'm the secretary this year. And I just wanted to come to see how we could work with the other counties around us with the roads and how all of that. Plan ahead and move things forward.
Right place. Who's next? So who are you and who's road, born, or in your work? Good, thorny, and you guys know like. And all those people out.
My name is Alan Lopez, and I'm when it comes to what is going on, I really believe that after born, we all have value, moral simplicity. That if you have been in a neighborhood, we love, you know.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Council Bluff. Pleasure being here. For Cuming City, USA, B City, USA, for Adam Community. So thank you very much. So I'm Chris Gibbons. I'm the city planning manager. We have a team of about 7 people, and our task here is planning, zoning, sport preservation. But we also deal with nuisances such as solid waste cleanup, weed abatements, junk related. A person wears many different hats. For me, I'm gonna go, just upgraded my barbecue games to a bigger and taller smokers. You know, now I used to do like 4 racks for ribs, now I'm gonna do like 6 to 8 racks for ribs. I'm looking forward to how these skills can develop on the rest of the time. It's always good. Appreciate it.
Keith, just a side here. I think Chris just volunteered to do ribs. Okay,
Good to see you. Next time we meet again, we'll be in full swing and college ball season. I love it. Get that in minutes.
I'm the community development director of the city of Blair. My work rose is our south bypass. Could be open in a week or two. Reminding the politicians to, cut river and all that. We're not going to make that available as soon as we can. The only thorn I have is the broken branch. My house in Dundee is about 10 feet too tall. We need to get a good, way to get it down. Get on this one. I do want to compliment Council Bluffs again. Spent a lot of time in everybody. Love this department. Love it down. Every time I drive through there, it's wow. It's
Appreciate it. Thank you.
no problem.
Thank you.
I have Chris Meeks with OPPD. Our organizational thorn right now is obviously Wednesday nights. There's still a lot of people that are working to get power to, sorry, Sydney. So, yeah, 86,000 people are still out, but we have some great mutual aid crews, a lot of people that are working around the clock to get that done. But for me, on the personal side, my wife and I are due with our first, coming here about the end of the month, beginning of September. So the next time we're here, I may have entire bags of new fodder underneath my eyes. So, yeah, I'll appreciate your grace when that happens.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
I'm Christine Stead, Development Services Director for the City of Heartland. A rose for me in our department is, obviously, I just started last year, about 18 months ago, and we went through a lot of, obviously, a big transitional period last year, and I've had several production builders tell me they're very happy with how things are going, so that's extremely good news for me, so.
I'm Helen, I'm an intern at MAPA. My bug is that I'm starting my final semester at UNO this month. Yay.
Welcome. Thanks for being here.
That's 2 cuts forward. with MAPA. It's, my pros would be that a great opportunity to take some pretty good trips this summer. So very appreciative for that. Also appreciative not to be traveling.
I'm Laura Heilman, I'm a Communications and Outreach Manager at MAPA, and my board is.
Jason Carvey, I'm a guest today. I'm a transportation planner with HDR. I'm here to talk about WeStep. I lived in the Omaha metro area for 28 years now in my career, and do work across the upper Midwest a lot in lots of different places. So my role would be actually working here in my hometown. Nice to be with you all.
Carlos Morales, Transportation Manager over at MAPA. My bud was actually the of the storm. When people did not have power, everyone was coming together in our neighborhood to help each other clean up. That was a very inspiring moment for me, and seeing how everyone was interacting was really nice to see.
Lindsay Button, Transportation Planner with MAPA, and I guess my bud is, my mom's coming to visit in a couple of weeks, which is exciting. She's gonna be visiting from Canada, specifically to take a porcelain painting class, because I guess there's a really good porcelain painting thing in town somewhere, so she's gonna be with us for.
Who would it go over on the Meredith?
Yes. Well, Meredith, Marcus, and Ashley have joined us, and so you know the drill, Meredith.
Yeah.
Who you are in a role, form, or bud, in your personal or professional. Choose one.
Meredith Dillon, I'm Blair Freeman. I will say I'm in the break the rules because I always do.
Yes, you do.
Then also with the Amazon is so full heartbreaking moment.
I'm Marcus Chevy and here with and I am gonna
Yeah, all of the kids. Lauren, you just, a partner. It was great to see your story last evening.
oh yeah.
Putting together.
History of Omaha now. So I'll share.
Do that.
The sensibilization of the community. That's it.
Ashley Trainer for community things. I just kind of all of them as well. New role, I manage our land based ambassadors program, main program, we learn about. And yeah, the people are interested, I'll have their different thing, but the big community, so exciting and also, you know.
Actually touches roles. Laura, can you call the folks online? I don't have.
Yeah, that's okay. Let's start with Brian, Jared, and Bowie.
Okay, I couldn't quite hear the questions. Audio is kind of choppy, especially the farther away you get, but apologize first off for not being there. I planned on being there, but I have somewhere to be right after this, so the logistically it'd be better for me to be here. But anyway, my name's Brian Lotus. I'm with the City of Omaha Public Works Department. My area is the private plans manager. And so my department works with private plan developments throughout Omaha. And we work with the SIDs, getting their infrastructure installed and so forth. The second question, I think it's something to do what you're looking forward to. Is that correct?
What's a rose or a bud or a thorn in your life? So rose is something good that's going on. A thorn is something, you know, maybe a little difficult to deal with. And a bud is something that's on the horizon that you're excited about.
So I'll take a bud. A bud would be my school starting for my son. He'll be a junior at prep, and this summer is I need to get him back on a schedule. So I see him every once in a while. So I guess that'd be my bud, school starting.
Thank you.
Yep.
We had Jared and Bowie next, please.
Yeah, good morning, folks. Jared Bly, Sustainability Manager at UNMC Nebraska Medicine. Essentially, I lead all of our sustainability initiatives and efforts at the Med Center. That includes our decarbonization work, waste management, water reduction, everything kind of in that sphere. Let's see. I think I will also say that school starting for our oldest. So we got 3 kids. Our oldest is 5.5 and he's starting kindergarten this year. Just got done with jump start this week and he'll be going to school officially in 2 weeks. So that's, I think it's a little bit of all 3 of those, to be honest with you, because we've had them in the house, all day, every day for the last 5 years, and we'll be gone for 8 hours now. So it's kind of a bittersweet moment for us. But yeah, happy to be here. Thank you.
Thanks, Jared.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Bowie Ray Tud. I'm the Chief Executive Officer for Spark. Really happy to hear that news about the Baby Bob almost being complete. As everyone knows, we're currently going through the RFP process for the North Omaha Trail Phase 2. So can't wait. It's going to be part of the Great American Trail. So quick plug there. But what was it? The rose for me, and I'll go with the just as a bud as well. But the South Sudan, as you guys know, I'm an immigrant to this country, and I'm South Sudanese. And South Sudan is killing it on the basketball court. The only country that's standing in our way is the U.S. So I'm kind of torn up because I want to cheer for the U.S., but I'm also going for South Sudan. So best of luck to both.
Perfect. We'll go Terry, Bruce, and then Mike.
Good morning, Terry Hawk of MOAC, representing a consortium of schools, including early childhood all the way to higher education. And I guess the thorn would be the cleanup, as I have a truckload of debris waiting for me after this meeting. So move forward.
Good morning, Bruce Fountain, Community Development Director, City of La Vista. Sorry I couldn't make it this morning. I also have a 11:30 meeting back here, so it wasn't, logistics just weren't going to work. It's a rose for me. I just got back from vacation. I was able to go to Florida and celebrate my great nephew's first birthday, and then go down to the city of Port St. Lucie, where I began my career as an associate planner 38 years ago. So it was really fun to see how things have exploded down there. Was also able to have lunch and get a tour from my former boss that still lives there. So the thorn that came with it was the trip back, which I happened to run into Mike Helgerson at the Charlotte airport, and we got to spend the night there because of the storms in Omaha weren't letting us get out. So after loading a plane at 1 a.m. and then telling us we had to get off again because the pilot wasn't available, and got to leave finally at 6 a.m. yesterday. So that was the most exhausting part of the trip, I think.
Thanks, Bruce.
Yeah, it's a little odd sitting in an airport after midnight and looking at somebody and thinking, is that Bruce? Mike Helgerson with MAPA, and Bruce stole my thorn, but just grateful that we didn't have any real storm damage when we got home, and grateful for all the people on both sides of the river, OPPD and all the city officials, Council Bluffs, Mid-American, working to restore power across the region. It's happening very frequently now. So thanks for all of that. On the rose, heading tomorrow for the trail bridge over the Platte River. Just a story we like to tell here at MAPA, just about NDOT, the partnership there to put girders on the trail bridge, or on the roadway bridge for a future trail, the partnership with the NRD and all the local communities, facilitated by MAPA, just to get that project actually built. So excited for that ribbon cutting tomorrow.
Great. We'll do Leland and then Grant.
Hi, Leland Jacobson, City of Bellevue. I'm off in a secure location. Happy to report that personally and professionally, the storm recovery's worked out well for things that I have to look after. So that's my rose. The thorn is actually not that long this time.
Good morning, Grant Anderson. I'm the Community and Economic Development Manager at MAPA. Sorry, I was late coming on, then I had to bounce off for a few minutes, so I'm not quite sure what the introduction question is. I think it has something to do with a thorn and a rose, but I'm not quite sure how I should answer.
You're the last one. We're giving up on you. It's fine. A rose is something good that's going on, thorn something bad, and a bud is something that's coming on the horizon.
What's good on the horizon is we're in the month of August, and that's my birthday month. So happy birthday to me. And the thorn, I'm sure this has been shared by several people in the group, but just yet again, another very disastrous, hazardous storm that's wreaked havoc in our region. It's unfortunate these kind of events seem to happen with more frequency and more ferocity. So that's just something that we have to continue to work towards in terms of the post-disaster recovery efforts. So again, I think that's probably been a sentiment that's been shared with a lot of people already, but that is the first thing that comes to my mind.
Thanks, Grant, and well said. Well, thank y'all for doing that. As we prepare to get to business, Derek is getting ready to go. Appreciate y'all sharing those things and hopefully get to know each other better. And the purpose of this subcommittee of the MAPA board is to make sure we are community driven, cross-section stakeholders from our region, common vision, and serving the mental health complex metropolitan area. And this continue to just try to be excellent. August also my birthday month, so I'll try to do any other August. None, seeing none. Also, my other goals is that, neither Bruce nor Mike had on the Iowa State stuff today. Appreciate that. He stopped today. Really appreciate it.
Bruce, yeah, hold it, turn it around.
Close and block his window. Thank you for sharing that, Derek. Derek is a whistleblower. Derek is here on the next couple of items along with my colleague Sydney and Bray to talk about first the active mobility plan and then get into the City of Omaha comp plan update. So I'm excited about that. Thank you, Derek, for being here. Thanks. Sydney, take it away.
So we're gonna skip over the active mobility plan. When we put the final touches yesterday on the PowerPoint, the comp plan, it was quite lengthy. And Sydney was nervous. She's like, we gotta cut this down. Like, no, we can't. So
Let that be said.
So if we have time, I'll come back to the camp, but I don't want to impact Jason's time either. So we make Omaha. Omaha's comp plan, just to set the context, our comp plan, what today is called a master plan, we're gonna revert back to what it should be called as a comp plan, comprehensive plan. Was originally approved in the mid-90s, and a lot of things have changed since then. We've been joking that the expiration date on our comp plan is way past due. And what I joke too about is I'm a Custer fan, and Nebraska was relevant in the 90s, and since then, hopefully this year will be relevant again. So a lot of things have changed since the 90s till today. And also, one other thing I thought about too is we didn't have email back then. So anyway, so we make Omaha. We'll get into, or Cindy will get into the brand and how that was developed. And we already did introductions. Lindsay's not here today. She's under the weather. So hopefully in future meetings you can meet her. Does everyone know what a comprehensive plan is? Show of hands. So good. I don't really need to go through this slide, but other than it's our vision for the future for development, redevelopment of Omaha. And it's also required by state statute. And the other thing that this plan I'm hoping is it's a shared vision across all of our partners, all of our agencies in our community together. My time at the city, doesn't always seem that we're on the same page, so I'm hoping this can elevate that. So this is Omaha today. So what you see in the dark color is our corporate limits. And then the gray area is our ETJ, or our jurisdiction that we have planning and zoning control over. And it's quite different than when we started. So I started to put some historical pictures in here, and I could have gone wild. And if you've ever been on the Durham's website, you can spend hours looking at historical pictures. But this is Omaha when it was founded in 1854. And the reason I bring this up is to look forward, we have to look back. Multiple reasons. So that's the size of Omaha in 1854. And that went really fast, sorry about that. But one interesting thing outside. In 1920, Omaha was the third city in the country to adopt its own ordinance. We didn't have a comp plan, but we started regulating use types and the built environment. So since 1920, you can kind of see how we've grown. Man, that goes really fast, sorry. You just remember what Omaha was like in 1950. It was very north-south. Omaha was really developed around the old streetcar and old streetcar nodes. So it was a very north-south community, but as time goes on, you see what happens. But in 1956, the city elevated our department, the planning department, as a department with the city charter. It was the city charter that we have today is pretty visionary, and it finally made us our own department, gave us a director. Alden Ost was our director at that time, the first director. And what it was, how the charter was put together with planning and planning principles, from my perspective, was pretty ahead of its time. I'm not going to go into all this, other than the planning department, we bounced around from department to department up until 1956. At some time we were in public works. That was not a very fun place to be, I imagine, way before my time. So 1960, can anyone get, oh shoot, I put it on there. Crossroads, 1960. So this is really the start of suburban development in Omaha. 1959, Omaha, we were about 6,000 people per square mile. That's extremely dense. Now we're about 3,000 people per square. 6,000 is about the density of Boston. So just think about that. So 1960, 70, 90, that's slowing down. Anyway, you start to see how we grow outward. And a lot of that is because of our sewer system. Unfortunately, in Council Bluffs, sewer is a problem as far as expanding your community. We didn't have that problem ever since the Papio plant went online, which is south of Bellevue. So our current master plan, you can read through all that. Really, the cliff notes of that, we were in the 70s, 80s, early 90s, there was explosive growth, really because of the sewer system. A lot of unregulated growth, and a lot of things happened that weren't great. So the organization, the current comprehensive plan is really the concept of element, and that's the guiding principles of the plan. Then we have future land use, transportation, parks, and other elements of the comp plan. And then as far as implementation, zoning, our capital improvement program, which is a 6-year fiscally constrained program for capital improvements and implementation tools. So those tools implement the plan. So really it was about managing growth, reinvestment, quality design. So some of the problems, there was a lack of connectivity. There's some subdivisions in West Omaha you'll drive into and you'll never drive out of, because you can't get out of them because all the houses look the same and you forget where you're going. Anyone guess what street that is in the middle? Dodge Street. And that's pretty, from a planner's perspective, that's pretty bad. And then we had a lot of non-contiguous growth. Some of our current master plan, what it has, we have 3 through routes to better connectivity, mixed use centers that are at all of our major intersections, and then we started eliminating cul-de-sacs. cul-de-sacs from a planner's perspective are not great. My wife's perspective, she grew up on a cul-de-sac, she loves them, but we don't live on a cul-de-sac today. The other thing, with this plan and previous to this plan, we've had a urban growth boundary, for quite some time. So really the present development zone, future zone, and, special development zone. So really this helps on that non-contiguous growth. And then also with the master plan today, we have our beautiful future land use map. This is one of the most frustrating things for me that I do not like. So this will be changed dramatically. So you can see as time went on, we continue to grow. So one of the biggest issues we have for Omaha is, and this is out of date, this is 7 years old, we need to update this, but we have about 25 to 35 years left of greenfield development. Lincoln, they can continue to grow out. We can't grow across county lines, Dutch Hall Road to the north and Harrison Street to the south, and then the Elkhorn Ridge line to the west. So we've had a long run suburban growth, and it's gonna stop. And for us as planners, that's tomorrow. So this map really gets into that through the analysis. If you want more information on this, it's on the building development summary, but we've done the analysis and it really gets to, depending on densities, how much time we have left for greenfield development. So that's one of our major issues. Some other things that we've done over the years, in 2005, we adopted the urban design element. You can look at that old picture of Dodge Street. It's basically controlling that and making it look so much better. Along with that, we had our infill handbook that helps us with infill development. We've seen a huge surge of infill development. Skip all of these. With Orbit, when Orbit was under design, preliminary engineering, final design, we started that process teaming with Metro on TOD zoning. We went after a grant, was awarded a grant to help us with TOD zoning along the Orbit route, which includes most of the urban core all the way up to West Roads. And one of the biggest issues that we had with growth, what comes along with it with car-centric design is parking. So this is the urban core, I believe 1940, and this is pretty much today with parking, on-street parking and structured parking. So what we did with TOD is we lowered those parking requirements within the urban core. So gonna fly through these. So the other thing that we're going to do, there's been a lot of work, a lot of planning work that has been done just in the last 5 years. We're going to take all these recent plans, all of the recommendations, policies set forth in these plans, incorporate those into our new comp plan update. We'll also take all the public engagement and incorporate that into our plan. So we had the Urban Core Strategic Plan 2022, Metro had Metro Next same year. Housing Affordability Action Plan, a lot of work done on that. We'll incorporate that into this plan. And the AMP Connect Omaha, that was actually just approved by council by unanimous vote on Tuesday, so that's now official. I don't know what Carlos was a team member. Vision Zero, again, take everything that was developed in that, incorporate it into our comp plan. Our park climate action and resilience plan. You can switch those letters around. It sounds worse, so we're just going to call it park. That'll be done by the end of the year. And then one effort that just kicked off, the Omaha Parks Department just kicked off the master plan. They don't have one today. So they're going to have a comprehensive plan for parks and trails for us. And we're coordinating with them on public engagement as much as possible, so we don't ask the same questions to the same people multiple times. And then also what's involved with tribal communities, Keith's involved with that, Carlos is involved with that, so that'll be, we're coordinating with that team on our comp plan update, again, trying to reduce the confusion around public engagement and not asking the same questions to the same people multiple times. So again, all these things will come together under the comp plan. We're not specifically sure how we're going to do that yet, but it's something that we'll be working on. So I talked enough.
No, I get to fly through these slides faster than I ever have in my entire life. So like Derek mentioned at the beginning, We developed a custom brand for this project. We worked with M-Space and Lovren on the branding. I have a marketing communications background, so this is the first time I've ever done this branding process this way, but we've met collaboratively, repeatedly to iterate a brand around some core concepts that we wanted this to feel inclusive, co-creative, dynamic, and people-centric. So what we came up with was, the brand, and I promised I would not go and, like, I wouldn't wax poetic about this. But this circle, We Make Omaha, consists of frames. Those frames can be used to frame images and initiatives that align with the comprehensive plan, holistic vision of Omaha. It's organic shapes set in a circle. You can read those as bricks for the built environment, or maybe they're the shadows of people standing in the circle in communication. We also have frames for specific elements of the comprehensive plan. We're not sure in the final document if it will track out as chapters this way, but we want to make sure that we can focus on specific things. The green one from left to right, I'll go economic development, natural systems, mobility, parks and recreation, health systems, land use and built form, arts and culture, and housing, and that will kind of help us in these conversations. So you'll see us out in the community, and I'll kind of go through our outreach and engagement tactics that we're using. What's really nice, what we love about this brand is it feels like Omaha. That is the same orange that's on those light poles in the park downtown. It's the same orange on the sculptures near the airport. It feels like an Omaha orange. And then this scales really well. It looks beautiful on a small size on the web, and in a mural setting. So we have our website. Has anyone been on the We Make Omaha website? Show of hands. Those who have not. We are still launching some features that we're really excited about. I love the website. It was built custom for us. We did it all internally, so we're able to be really, we're able to pivot really quickly if we need to on that. Something that is coming is an interactive map where you can see engagement opportunities near you, and you can see involving the entire community there. It is ADA accessible and has local translation as well. We just implemented a tool this week where you can actually change the color scheme of the website to fit your accessibility needs. So check that out and kind of play with it. It's really neat. Our project timeline so far, Lindsay and I were brought on in November of last year, and from November to the end of January, we wrote the scope of work and community engagement plan for this project, and then brought on some nonprofit partners in the spring, and we've been kind of ramping that up through our pre-planning phase. Right now, we're working through existing conditions and current trends, and we just launched community engagement for this. So you'll see community engagement overlap with some of these pieces of the plan, including scenario planning. We'll bring in an additional partner there to help us with their niche aspect of planning, where we can kind of play some of these things off of each other and make sure that our future growth strategies that come from community engagement are feasible.
City, the timeline for the website.
It is not, but it will be soon. That is the to-do list. Not near the top, but we're getting there. We'll go into plan development there. We're not going completely heads down right away. We'll do some open houses. We'll do some online plan review with the community. We'll continue to engage people. So by the time we publish this plan, by the time it goes to council, I would like people to be bored with it at that point. I don't want anything to be new. We'll roll from there right into a zoning code update so that the zoning code reflects the comprehensive plan. Like Derek mentioned earlier, the existing master plan was mid-90s, so our zoning code is actually from the 80s. So we have an inverse right now. The engagement process, we are using IEP2 as a framework. People in the room are probably really familiar with IEP2, so I won't go into it too much. But this is the gold standard. Public participation requires a detailed public participation plan and the selection of kind of a level of involvement based on the promise that you're able to make to the public on what their impact on the decision will be. So we are very fortunate to have leadership on this project comfortable with the collaborate level, which is kind of unheard of for a plan like this. So we're really excited about that. And it allows us more flexibility in the tactics that we can use. So that has also influenced our 4 goals for engagement. So these 4 areas are kind of our lighthouses as we go through engagement. Every time we're doing a tactic, we're making sure we're meeting these. So I won't read through all of those. These are on our website if you want to look at those more. But inviting everyone, investing in reaching people who experience barriers to participation, making sure that it's representative, making sure that people can access it in a way that works for them, and that we're closing the loop routinely. We're basing all of our tactics too on storytelling, mutual learning, and co-creation. These were three things as we looked at other plans that had been done by cities like Oklahoma City, Charlotte, Minneapolis, what else am I- Memphis. These were things that kind of rose to the top, that these were tactics the community really resonated with and that were useful for them. So we're looking at outreach and engagement as two separate tactics. Outreach being how can we reach people with information about opportunities, and engagement being the actual experience they have with us when they're giving us their input, and that two-way communication piece. So we are using a committee, or not really a committee, but a group of people called outreach partners. These are people who have large networks already, HR directors, directors of local organizations, school districts. These are people who can help us reach larger groups of people, and then a community ambassadors program, which I'll go into later. We're doing some traditional media, earned and paid. We've hired videographers so that we can create videos that help people understand the process. They can watch them. It will help us reach people better on social media, and photography, so we can avoid having pictures of people high-fiving in a boardroom, using that to illustrate engagement. Social media, email, if you'd like to be on our email list, I'll plug now, and at the end, please subscribe on remakiomaha.org, and you can get updates from us. We'll have presences at community events, presentations, signage and art installations, and promotion items. So our website, obviously, also digital engagement will be part of this. We'll have some kind of hub where you can have a workshop experience from your computer if you're not able to make it in person. Mobile office hours where Lindsay and I and other folks from our team will be in a coffee shop or in McDonald's or in a library. You can sit down with us and go through the data and we'll have a conversation. Presentations just like this one, an event booth. I would say find us at Open Omaha this weekend, but we were actually forced to cancel that booth because everyone's dealing with the fallout of the storm right now. A speaker tour, we'd like to bring in some experts from outside of Omaha so people can get in more depth on conversations about mobility, density, housing. Engagement stations where we will pop up in your local grocery store, in your local parking lot, and you can come interact with the plan and interact with some planners. Interviews, we are kicking off our interview process right now with people within City Hall, within the city departments, and without that group. We have a goal of getting over 100 interviews of people from all across our community, all different types of experts there. Our opening survey is online. Please take the survey and forward it to your friends and family. I'll do another plug for that at the end. And there's a QR code you can scan if you'd like to get to it now. Workshop 1 is coming up this fall. We'll do some visioning. We're in the ideation process on that, and I'm really, really excited for what we're coming up with. It's going to be a very fun experience for people to attend. District listening sessions just to help people about some of these things more in depth. We'll have facilitators there. So we can talk about what things each district is facing specifically. We're excited about having a planning board game. So this is something you can take home with you. This was something used in Oklahoma City and in Memphis, I believe. Sure. We would be happy if people send us their results, but we're also happy if this just becomes a way for us to involve people and invite them to learn about what planning is and how their input matters. We'll do another survey. We're going to work with UNOCBAR to do a statistically significant survey. And I'm very excited to say that we are able, I think, finally to get a full and complete mailing list with some coordination with OPD, so we can reach not only property owners, but also renters. It will be a first time that's now that I've promised that, I need to go back to my email and make sure that's actually happening. It's in the works. We would like to do bus tours. My vision for this is that we get people from Elkhorn, Millard, North Omaha, and South Omaha, and we all get on a bus together and go look at what good things are happening in the community and where we might be able to use those solutions elsewhere. We'll do a second workshop. We'll have some focus groups, subject matter experts, making development, educators, single parents, and just to get more honed input in those areas. We'll do a storytelling experience. I did steal this from Metro, but just a survey experience where you can interact with other people's experiences online. And this is how those things are going to shake out across the first few months of this. So we have 6 phases to our engagement timeline. What I just shared with you will be mostly phases 1 through 3. And this is like 8-point font, so I don't expect anyone to be able to read it. You can see survey 0. Oh, that's getting lost on screen. This is really just to inspire you that we put a lot of investment behind this. 3 new team members, 3 new positions that the city has never had before. We have a large coalition of nonprofit partners who are helping us get this done. And that nonprofit partner group is Omaha by Design, Spark, CDI, thank you, Louie, for being here, Latino Economic Development Council, and Elevate Omaha, which is a local youth engagement organization. We have our first event with them next week. So those groups will be helping us manage some committees that will give input to this process. Core partner committee is regional leaders and organizations, so we can all make sure we're tracking toward the same things. There's a lot of planning going on right now. We want to make sure that that's rolled up into the comprehensive plan. Community ambassadors, I mentioned earlier, this is 24 grassroots participants, 2 from each council district, or no, 3 from each council district and 3 from the ex-urban areas. That will make sure that we have grassroots outreach and representation from all our districts. This is a nomination process. We will have a nomination form coming out soon. We'd like people to nominate someone in their community, maybe not someone who was already involved, but someone just really well known and community source. Youth Engagement Committee, Elevate, will be helping us run that up. Reach partners, like I said, is those existing organizations, and then technical committees around each of those element areas that I read through earlier, the different colored circles, will be led by city staff and include technical experts in each focus area. So this is the end of the presentation. We made it. I'm so sorry, Laura. Please help us spread the word. You can follow us on social media. We post regularly. Visit the website, remakeomaha.org. You can take the survey right now. You can share the survey with other people in your network. And you can register to be notified when the workshops go live. We're going to be doing multiple iterations of the workshop. So we'll send an email out when those dates become available. Sign up for those email updates and talk to people who are probably your family and your neighborhood's local expert on all things growth and development. So we'd love to have you help us out with that. And please nominate community ambassadors when those become available. X out the Omaha by Design event. We're not doing that anymore. And we have those visioning workshops. So I'll leave that here. Thank you very much.
I'm very excited. I'm glad to play a small part in it internally, and this is huge. Would you please do this presentation for the Omaha? Again, I have a couple thoughts. I know we're going to before Jason comes up. Any question, feedback real quick from the body?
Yeah, obviously, now that Omaha realized geographically, there's some space we can. So that's gonna mean that some of the suburb areas are gonna have to be addressed in the future, because not everyone's gonna live in their theater. So as part of this process, you guys are gonna have many conversations about the happening for Omaha 20 years, and that the suburban model future anymore. I mean, a lot of people, because our community holds. That's just not what the future will hold for sustainable in the future. Yeah, so that's part of that listening and learning. So it's learning on both sides through this process. And that's where those national speakers that we bring in, and as we have all these conversations, it's really about learning, because in Omaha, I'm probably council, and it's anything to anyone. Yeah, so we're really hoping that through this process, we can re-engage the community and really planning is. When I mentioned planning in the community with friends and family and others, they so you work for a shooter? I'm like, no. He hasn't been playing for like 30 years. So yeah, it's really pointing out, what our issues are. I mean, running greenfield land is not our own issue. Housing affordability is an issue. Equity is an issue. So it's really pointing out the data and the facts and presenting that to the community. I think that's where the scenario plan is going to. We'll have one scenario, but basically we just keep growing. We annex council lots. Yeah. And we just go over the bridge and and then have results, with that scenario, what are the results of that scenario? What's Omaha gonna look like, at that time, 50 years in the future? If you pick this scenario, what does that mean for you? One thing I really hope, and if anyone knows the solution to this is, but through this process, I really hope we can, push back on NIMBYism. Anytime we have an apartment complex, anywhere we go, we get pushback, no matter where it is. And luckily, our council has been, has figured that out. So continue to improve them. But having an apartment complex, multifamily, even smaller, we get pushed. So we can present the facts and data to the community, and every case that we have in the future is approved, we can point back to, this is the reason why we need to start to measure how the plan is being implemented. The other thing we're gonna do, and I'll be quiet, maybe you have some additional thoughts, but we're gonna have 5-year updates. We're not gonna wait 25, 30 years to do this again. So didn't really answer your question, but I think it's just learning.
I'm just curious, it's something that is here too. I mean, our, budget. And when we do, it's the urban model. We're gonna maximize potential by. So I was just curious on what strategy should. Every community space.
Yeah, and one last thing I'd say is that the development mixed use centers, they're horizontally mixed use, but there are a lot of opportunities just outside of 680 for us to have density at those major intersections, at those major mixed use centers, like 120 in the center. We get it. So even though we're running out of them, there's still a lot of opportunities at those mixed use centers and in North and South Omaha. And North 24th Street's a perfect place. It's flat. It has great bones. We can add a lot of density that was once there before.
Thank you. Just a couple quick things. So appreciating the way this is laid out. Also, we learned a ton. Site visit went on. They invited this. I appreciate the racial equity piece being bolded into how we're going to talk about this inside the organization. The racial equity workshop presentation for the team to just align with our inside city. IP2 is smart, and also this is key. But and Derek explained how we balance the information that we already have on hand and survey the community today. Right, we already know a lot. But we balance that. Ongoing public engagement and everything. So I take what we know without making assumptions and keep pulling in information so it's innovative and inclusive and it evolves, right? So I think that's where the evolution in this process happened. Years ago, yes. So thank you for that. If there aren't any other pressing questions, you might move forward. Jason, come on up and or sit there. And
I'm gonna follow Derek. Yeah, I did appreciate your opening comments to Bruce and Mike because University of Iowa. Common ground, right? I'm sorry. Okay, so and I will say that we've had partnership with Christine and I know Carlos and Laura have been a little bit involved. So anytime you guys want to interject. Please chime in. So Western Sarking Transportation Enhancement Plan. So essentially, this was a Heartland 2050 grant, $100,000 of federal funds, but I think, and this is the slide Jim usually gives for Jim Warner. So if I misrepresent something, I apologize. But it's a partnership between Gretna, Papillion, Springfield, and Sarpy County. The communities chipped in extra, overmatched, so chipped in extra funds because this is really important. It's essentially looking at the growth area that opened up with the sewer opening up over the ridge outside the patio base. And so the southwest Sarpy area is really, and this is, I think this study area is actually very misleading because the shape of the study area is southwest corner, but it looks like Sarpy County. And so we start seeing maps later. You think, well, a lot of this is sort of filled in. So this is basically everything south of Schramm.
east of, or west of 60th and kind of inside the. And so this area is a, it's a dynamic, area with, sewer expansion happening. And so the communities really wanted to come together and get it. And so, looking at a lot of the information that we've got on hand about connecting this effectively and efficiently, how do each of the communities, plan for a contiguous multimodal to serve all users, network for the future? And how do we do that effectively? So, looking at future land development, how much travel is going to come out of that? How do we make good connections? Thinking about streets, thinking about alternative modes of transportation, pedestrians, bikes, transit, environmental costs, and safety was actually a big part of this too. Looked at kind of how growth might happen through 2050 with the tools available to MAPA, but really this is intended to be a flexible plan that kind of gives a blueprint for each of the communities to, as development occurs, to have the right transportation kind of infrastructure out there in place. And so that kind of illustrates that future, that brown boundary really shows that future kind of sewer area where growth is anticipated to happen. So essentially, developed what we call network technologies. These are kind of flexible classes of street networks that can, serve all the potential future needs. And so I don't need to get into too many details in each of these. We'll show you a few illustrations here, but essentially continue a similar pattern to what, is occurring today in the existing Sarpy County and even in Douglas County, where we've got an established 1 mile grid. The plan would be to have, we did identify some potential future recreational trails there as well. But the idea is to recommend a side path or a trail or a multi-use path on every single arterial as we go through this. And so we're going to show you, so there's 2 corridors here that really saw that we wanted to have the flexibility to make sure that we had 168th Street and 192nd Street would be the 2 corridors where you could potentially have up to 6 lanes in the future to kind of, future interchanges, potentially a lot of growth up to the north. And so created 150-foot right of way essentially for these corridors is going to be, so as they go through and designate these corridors, that's, enough space to safely serve a lot of traffic if you need to at some point in the future. But again, 12-foot side path, sufficient right away to accommodate transit infrastructure, if it's a bus stop or street furniture, even pull out made sense in application. Ability to have some streetscaping. The rest of the, so if it's not those 2 big focus corridors there, these 168 and 192nd, the 2 you see in kind of maroon and red there. The rest of them would be 110 feet of right of way. This allows again those side paths, the enough capacity for vehicles, and then again we don't know what the development patterns would be necessarily in the future, right? We don't know if it's suburban style, if we're going to get some mixed use type mixed use development. So first floor retail, residential, office, and so we basically developed topologies that were flexible to whatever development patterns might be. And so this is an example of what would happen with one of those 110-foot ways that we could use it. We looked at kind of the multi-way boulevards too, where you have kind of the traffic on the outsides. Bring in potentially bike lanes, on-street parking, development that front the right-of-way line. And so wanted to build in that flexibility, again, to react to whatever development happens in this world. So again, the idea was that each of the communities would kind of agree to a set of standards. And so when these communities grow into each other, everybody kind of agree on what those streets look like. So, being on sidewalks, even we've talked about road design, minute, you wouldn't necessarily go from 2 lane section. So what does that transition look like? Which side of the street are we doing it? So when you kind of run into each other, how do they interface effectively, cost effectively, efficiently? And so some of the, and I'll talk a little bit about this with some of the safety standards coming up, but identify opportunities for lower speeds than we tend to see in a lot of suburban locations currently, hoping that a lot of these might be 30-35 mile type streets. And the ability to have narrower lanes, we did that on everything but the ones that potentially lanes. This will actually look like one of Derek's slides pretty closely, the 3-through route policy. Anywhere where we've got 2 miles of currently, places where we don't have barriers to it. Recommend a full, a collective of certain standards. Here's a couple of different cross sections. The ability maybe to have some on-street parking on some of these that develop adjacent basins. Kind of chicanes or bring the curbs together, kind of slow down. Give locations for pedestrians to cross. But essentially, every section, if there's 2 sections that doesn't currently are in this area, the data centers, things that are in these 3 corridors. So the idea is to keep a lot of these shorter through trips off the in congestion where we can. And so this is consistent. Steve Jensen was involved in this. We talked about some of the West Omaha experience, speed and safety issues. And so try to build in some standards that might and then if you look back through, you see we've got, essentially 3 access points local streets that we go through. That's consistent with the access. Let's see that again. It's similar to what City of Omaha currently does. It's pretty consistent. Very relatively consistent. All the work going on with the safety action plan, a lot of the focus has been on standing safe for users, not just vehicles. And so really that is on, can we, we've got how do we bring in, what the engineers would call horizontal, and the things that kind of narrow that we keep speeds down, and that, you see a wide wanted a 50 because clearly that's not, good for the pedestrians and bicycles in the corridor. And what we really heard the future of this, making these walkable in the future. They, the economic development folks have got, good economic on. And so how do we do that? Again, this greenfield rural day. How do we make something that's the future? At intersections, we kind of set up a walk, work with the engineers to kind of set up kind of a decision-making process and the all on intersections that we learned about. And basically encouraging when they do studies to determine how these future corridors look like. To kind of, use a different, again, it was consistent with, I think what the Vision Zero came up with and the work that you guys are doing on safety action. And so again, a lot of this, so, as we talked with the partners, we came up with concepts where, okay, can you build, when you go through and, you've got a corridor that's something like people have divided. Today you got a two lane blacktop. How do you do this cost effectively? And so, looking at the long term, for instance, can you build, if it's going to be a 3-lane, can you build, the storm sewer and the curbs at least on one side and start getting that urban infrastructure in place for the ultimate, it might be 20, 30 years from now, the 4-lane divided. And so, and then talk about bringing in the trails with the first urban improvements in that interim as well. And, you know, how we phase that. Obviously, you know, budget at the time of creating project. And can't do, but this is kind of the roadmap that we've laid out. That's about it. Yeah, 45-minute version of this, like 5-minute version of this. This is. Is there anything you add or?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would add is that, I mean, Jason did a great job in MAPA, and it's really been nice with all the meetings. There's been great participation with every partner. And even though not every jurisdiction wants to grow, some don't want to grow at all. There is a common denominator of understanding the practicality of education. And so I think everybody has, you know, worked well together. So that's been really, you actually can do that. It's there have a meeting not down right or anything like that. So I mean, it's, yeah, people really work well together on this. So it's been really nice to see.
Carlos and Laura, you guys are very involved. Couple high level notes. I think with the end in mind, some of the things that we've experienced and seen have been, well, think through, you've ever driven on Highway 370 and you have these massive developments, but we don't have any sidewalks. We don't have the infrastructure to make it a very rural / urban location to a more urbanized area or an area that is going to be urban. I think the beauty behind what we did, what we were able to accomplish is getting that assurance, that base network of bicycle and pedestrian and assurance, right? You don't, as a user of the transportation system, you want an assurance. You want to be able to go through Sarpy County and get into and experience the same thing, not have a 3-lane road and then a 2-lane gravel road right next to it on the other side of the street. It just makes it kind of difficult and it intensifies the safety risk. And so what we're trying to do is how do we develop these assurances at this base level? I think some of the other questions that unexpectedly we brought into was this idea and concept of the collector network and what does that mean for pedestrians, right? The 3-through routes really expand to about 1,300 linear feet, just as a comparison, right? When you go to downtown Omaha, towards the old market, the city blocks are about 600 feet, right? Before you meet a new intersection. That's nearly double when you're doing just 3-through route. So from a pedestrian perspective, always the nicest place to be. So thinking through what that means, what implications there are for access and safety was also a big part of the conversation, and talking through about maintenance, right? Like traffic signals are not easy to maintain. Oftentimes they present additional challenges. So how do we build the base structures and assurances and groundwork that, you know, we don't have developers fighting each other or the city or the county. It's the same rule all around. So that was kind of interesting to see. Lots more work to do. Super excited about this group, and you know, if you have questions, let us know.
I got one. So when the study's done, is it the plan that each one of the communities are going to do? How are you going to get that continuity?
Yeah, it is an alteration each year to do that, and we're actually representing the process. We're nearing the finish line. And so, we actually should be done that the next few months, that we're actually hoping, we can actually adopt both of them, we step and.
I saw some media coverage on the recently. Did y'all think it was fairly appropriately? Did y'all see? Any questions? Procedure, Jason. We have definitely been, academic here. Lindsay, come on, and talk about the new sport list. I don't know if it's yours, but.
Yeah, so climate pollution reduction grant, I'm gonna stand so nobody can see me in my poorly chosen seat over there. But I'm gonna talk a little bit about our climate pollution reduction grant initiatives. I came to this group back in February to give you guys kind of a bit of a rundown on what we were working on at the time. This is a quick update and follow up on where we are now. So a bit of background for those who might be new to the room, the CPRG program is a grant that was issued by the EPA to metropolitan regions and states to kind of develop a comprehensive climate action plan. Both the state of Nebraska and the city of Omaha were recipients of this grant. The city of Omaha has been using it to put together some of their city CART program. And MAPA is kind of assisting the city with that to expand it out to the regional level. So what this grant is supposed to cover is what's called the metropolitan statistical area. So that includes all 8 counties that are shown in this map. So we've got 5 of them on the Nebraska side, 3 of them on the Iowa side. It's a big area to cover with a lot of diverse needs. So that's kind of where it's coming in to help with the regional expansion and inclusion. So back in March, which is kind of what I was talking about in February, we were putting together what's called the Preliminary Climate Action Plan, or PCAP. And that was submitted to the EPA March 1st. So our next step here, which is grayed out, is putting together a comprehensive climate action plan, which is the final document for this grant. So what I'm going to do right now is going to update you on kind of what our main findings were for the PCAP and the next steps that we're moving into the comprehensive plan. And I was given like 5 minutes, so we're going to try to do it.
You don't gotta go that fast.
Okay. So the first part of our PCAP is putting together this, what's called a greenhouse gas inventory. So we looked at greenhouse gas emissions across that metropolitan statistical area for 6 key emission sectors. So we've got electricity consumption, mobile combustion, employee commute, stationary combustion, agriculture, and solid waste. And these categories are a little different from what the EPA is expecting. So as part of our CCAP, we're going to try and get those into alignment. But these are also pretty consistent with what Omaha was using for their climate action resiliency plan. And we wanted to make sure that these 2 plans are copacetic, working together. So we've got Iowa in orange on the top, and we've got Nebraska in blue. And as you can see from this chart, the vast majority of our emissions are coming from electricity consumption, with 35.6%. That includes things like primarily how we get our energy and how our energy is produced. Our next highest emission sector was mobile combustion with 27.5%. Mobile combustion is your entire transportation network. So how are we emitting greenhouse gases when we get from A to B? Employee commute, you see I got it italicized and asterisk there. We have to do a little bit more digging to see if that's like redundant with our mobile combustion sector, but we wanted to pull that out specifically because the employee commute is an area where we have a little more control in how we can adjust our emissions. So that came in at about 4.5% of our total emissions across the metropolitan statistical area. And then in 3rd place, we've got stationary combustion. So stationary combustion is things that come from buildings. So that includes residential buildings, that includes commercial buildings, things of that nature, and that came in at about 21.5. We also have agriculture and solid waste coming up at the end there. Agriculture also has an asterisk because a lot of this, again, is preliminary. We're going to be refining it in our comprehensive plan. And the only data we were really able to get from agriculture were things like fertilizer use. So you put fertilizers on the field, it's going to emit a certain amount of carbon, but that doesn't take into account pastures. It doesn't take into account livestock. There's a whole bunch of other agricultural aspects we want to make sure get captured here. Nebraska and Iowa are very rural states. We've got a lot of agricultural land use, and that was not captured as well as we would like it to in our PCAP. So that's something we're going to come back to in comprehensive. And then solid waste. So I could probably talk for hours about things that go into that. But that's the waste that we emit in our daily lives. It's emitted by commercials, so all of our organics, inorganics, things of that nature, and how they're disposed of. So the second part of our PCAP were what we call priority reduction measures. So we looked at our top emission sources as well as solid waste, because solid waste, again, is something that we have really good relationships with, and we can kind of work towards and have some projects in mind. So we looked at our top emissions and where we can make the most difference, and we came up with a couple measures that we can implement or work towards implementing to kind of reduce those emissions as much as possible. So first, for that stationary combustion, we've got improving building energy efficiency across all sectors, is what that's supposed to say, and develop alternative and renewable energy options across the sector. I know that PD is already doing a whole lot of work in this area. They have their full climate plan and push towards green energy. So that's going to be a really big collaboration with OPBD, with Mid-America Energy, and all of our energy productions to kind of try and drop those emissions down. Mobile combustion, the biggest thing here is going to be the reduction in vehicle, what we call vehicle miles traveled, so that's VMT, and that's kind of trying to get people out of their single occupancy vehicles. So providing alternative modes of transportation on how people get to work, because that's the biggest source of transportation in anybody's daily life, right? How do you get from home to work? If you're driving in a car by yourself on the highway, you're going to be emitting a whole lot of greenhouse gases or carbon dioxide. So the options here, we've got things like increasing bike and transit access to get people out of their cars and into more communal transportation options, developing a regional TDM program, what that stands for is Transportation Demand Management. So again, that's kind of trying to offset when people are traveling, how they're traveling, so that you can kind of reduce that congestion aspect as well. And increase adoption of electrification. So that one also kind of ties hand in hand with how we get our electricity, right? So it's kind of setting things up for the future so that if we have more electric vehicles, if we have more electrified options as opposed to gasoline and diesel, then that provides more potential for reductions as we're getting our electric vehicle. Agriculture and land use, we kind of stole this from the state's plan. The state actually was able to obtain, I think, several $300 million grant from the EPA to implement a lot of their agricultural initiatives from their CPRG PCAP. So a lot of this includes things like preservation of land in the MSA. So that's going to hit that climate smart agriculture practices. That's what the state is looking at intensively. On the more local level, looking at things like expanding urban greening projects. So that kind of helps reduce a lot of that heat island byproduct factors as well by inducing including tree canopy in urban agriculture. And then things like native species initiatives. And then for solid waste management, we're looking to reduce total waste across the MSA, improve waste diversion programs and infrastructure, and decrease urban. So those were our main priority reductions. And the important thing about including this in our PCAP, which was due March 1st, was that we had implementation grants that were then due April 1st. And in order to apply to the EPA for an implementation grant, it had to be for a project that was included in one of these PCAPs. So that's kind of where a lot of these priority measures are. So this is a really helpful graphic that was generated for and provided by the EPA that kind of shows us in light blue on the left, the components of the plan that were included in our preliminary plan. And then in dark blue on the right, it kind of goes through elements that are going to be new to the comprehensive plan development. So as I mentioned for our PCAP, we had quantified GHG measures, our GHG inventory, and this authority to implement. So again, that's kind of looking at each of these priority projects and figuring out who actually has jurisdiction over these things and how do we work with them to try and implement some of these measures. There's also that benefits analysis for LIDAC communities and full project analyses in general, which is kind of taking each strategy or measure that we looked at and saying, okay, if we, let's take the green electrifying personal vehicles, for example. If we get everybody to adopt electric vehicles, then yes, there's going to be fewer emissions in your community. There's going to be fewer emissions on our roadways. However, the way that our grid is currently set up, we might have more emissions and a higher power drain at our plant locations. So that's kind of looking at both sides of things and making sure we're considering all that. So in towards the CPAC, we're going to be looking at how we can leverage federal funds to go after to implement a lot of these projects. There's going to be a workforce analysis component. I know Marco with the city is working closely with the chamber to try and hit that workforce piece. So it's not only implementing plans, but like, do you have a workforce that is able to perform the mechanical needs of electric vehicles versus not? GHG targets, so that's taking that baseline inventory we put together and establishing targets for reduction. So we'll have kind of like a conditions as normal. If we just continue on our current trajectory, this is what it will look like in near term and long term. And we want to set targets to try and decrease that. And then, so again, that kind of hits our projection. So what are things going to look like 30, 50 years from now? we make the biggest impact for lowest cost and hit everything in the regional scale. So our next steps are to take this PCAP and refine it, enhance, and listen. So we're gonna refine it, we're gonna kind of answer some of those questions we had about our greenhouse gas inventory. We're going to enhance it by implementing a lot of those key extra pieces that are required in the CCAP and listening. So we want to work with local partners, both political jurisdictions, and people who have the power to implement these projects, as well as sector experts that are the people who have the best technical knowledge about each of these emission sources. So here's that timeline again. PCAP is done. It's great up. It's March. Now we have to look forward. So coming up between now and February, we're going to be doing a lot of outreach. We had Carlos give a fantastic webinar on Wednesday for those of you who were able to make it. So we've got that webinar that will be posted up on our website shortly, so that if you weren't able to make it, you can always catch it later. We're going to be doing informational meetings like this one to a lot of our partners, kind of keep you all appraised of what's happening and give you the opportunity to get involved if you haven't reached out. And then coming up in September to October, we're going to be doing these jurisdiction meetings. So we're going to set up shop in each of our 8 counties and do kind of like a formalized invitation to jurisdiction leaders within those counties. Be like, hey, we're going to be here. We would absolutely love you to come and talk to us for a bit. We want to hear from you. We want to know exactly the climate issues you're experiencing in your communities. If your communities are saying, hey, this is not something that we want to participate, we want to know that too. Right? I know it's a big area. We're not going to get buy-in from everybody. Make sure that we get as much buy-in as we can. And then in November to February, we're going to kind of be looking at those emissions sector workshops, which is reaching out to those subject matter experts, getting their feedback. And then on the back end, there's this data piece where we're refining our inventory, creating those forecasts and targets. And then in August of next year, we saw that this was an error on Wednesday, and I still didn't fix it. It's supposed to say February. But yeah, so then in August of next year, our finalized comprehensive plan is going to be due to the Environmental Protection Agency. Yeah, so that's all I had to update today. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to take those. We've got our website and contact email on the screen.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Quick comment and question. In terms of the personnel, you're gonna be pulling from like data that has already been collected.
Yes.
We have a lot on that.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the is that there have been opportunities to apply for grants at the NDE level.
Yeah.
Related to the training that we kind of missed out on a couple of those opportunities because of the shifts and changes, and so now we have $307 million state in as well as the $62.5 million grant overall. Funding attached to it, so that's a huge issue that we're trying to do that. And the other is that in the $7 million grant, in the initial application by the state of Nebraska, they actually removed that are contained in the city of Omaha because it's included in their own application, and so that specifically does not include Omaha or the census tracts that generally applies low and moderate income in that their grant application. So trying to, given the city didn't get funded, trying to figure out how we're going to make sure that Justice 40 is implemented and that those communities are not left out. Sure, we're like keeping on that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm gonna agree with absolutely everything you said on there. And yes, we do have to take a lot of our data from data that's already been collected, if for no other reason than the turnaround time on this is way too fast. So I would touch base with you and figure out kind of how we can best leverage those.
And Laura, you just confirmed it, both one emergency this question, it doesn't want to make sure we need to repeat anything, we can do that. Thank you for that question, Meredith. Any other questions? I had a question. Any others? So there's people that don't believe in climate, BNC or this work, not science that is initiates the data and planning and so on. So my question for you is it, do we do a disservice to this work if we frame it more pollution, environmental, and less climate resiliency and addressing the effect of climate change? sanitizing too much, watering it down too much, or how do we, sidestep the politics?
Yeah.
related to that?
So that's definitely always the question, right? I mean, especially in our little climate, we talked about in our intros. You're not gonna get buy-in from everybody. So what we wanna make sure that we do is we have the greatest impact we can and make sure that even though it might be watering it down a little bit, we water it down as much as we can while still maintaining our key messages, to try and include as many people as possible. So if we can make that more palatable by looking at that resiliency piece, I mean, if we look at the storms that we just had this week, right? Use that as a key example of maybe resiliency in our power grid, resiliency in how our homes are constructed, things of that nature. We want to make sure that it's relatable without necessarily throwing that climate change term at people, which is going to immediately have them back up. So it's kind of trying to strike that balance, and it's always a challenge.
Well, one thing that maybe gets overlooked a little bit in this, because it's not in the forefront, is the fact that if you implement some of these things, then there will be a direct impact on economic issues. And so being more efficient with your house means your utility payments go down. Collecting more stuff, not sending it to the landfill, allows us to generate income off of the resource. There are a number of other things here that are going to contribute to the economic piece. And the folks who don't subscribe to anything about climate change can't counter the argument that now it's better off economic. And so that becomes more of a solid. There's stuff in solid waste that it just has to be driven on the economics. And so I think this is something that just kind of sits there. It's not really, you don't really think about the economics here because you get tied up with the greenhouse gas and climate change and all that. But there's going to be economic benefits to everyone.
And kind of to your point as well with the workforce development. If we're opening up new energy sectors, we're opening up these new ways of doing things that creates a lot more jobs. Right. So there's a lot of potential there as well. I would do a side comment that I was actually out in Oregon last weekend visiting my nephews. And human health is another big factor of this, right? So you can get at kids with asthma, for example. If we implement a lot of these measures, then they're going to generally be breathing better each day, right? So I bring up Oregon just because they're having a really bad wildfire season, as they have been having for the last however many years. And we had a day out there with an AQI of 175. So that was you better have an air filter in your house and don't leave until this air quality improves, right? So we want to make sure that we don't get to a state where people are trapped in their houses and sensitive groups need to make sure that they're stockpiling HEPA filters, right? So it's kind of a forward look and incorporating the human health.
You guys want to?
No, I just wanted to clarify, this is a voluntary situation. We're asking people to volunteer and adopt some of these things. But ultimately, it's volunteer. You know, we're hoping to get these strategies out there for people to join in. I think that's part of it. The other broader, more encompassing part is for these larger EPA grants that do exist. One of the questions or check boxes is, do you have a climate action? Any community within our MSA region will now be able to check that off and be eligible to participate in these larger EPA grants. So what's the benefit? What's safe for your local community? It can mean the difference in getting additional or get additional help too. So that's our view and our position on this. We're trying to help everyone within our region. We're trying to coordinate and collaborate with as many different partners as possible. Tons of work still to do.
Thank you.
And I would kind of piggyback off of that implementation or the opportunity to pursue additional funding. It's not just EPA grants that are not asking for these climate plans. So the newest round of Safe Streets and Roads for All, even, we're putting together a program agreement on the Iowa side for that. And there's a question in there that says, does your region have a climate action? And that's for a transportation safety project, right? So it kind of goes beyond those things, just environmental protection stuff.
Thank you, and I'm just sorry. Take the time, but you know, I can also, you know, these sources, there are a lot of people who aren't subject matter experts or this that have to say. You get your thoughts on it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you, for that, Lindsay, and we, thank you for sharing how we engage, on to committee updates. We got just about 2 minutes, and times we're gonna find it. First, the first two, engagement and housing development have combined, is that true still, Ashley? Okay. Please, give us an update on what you're doing and how we can support it.
Everyone, yeah, my colleague Jeff is out of town right now, but no major updates for our committees. We continue to meet. Our next meeting will be August 13th at 3 hopefully. But really the big ask is if you know any community members who are very interested in this work or just want to learn more, let them know that our meetings are always open to the public. We welcome visitors to come and learn more. Obviously, Derek and Sydney would love to at some point have you all come. Really a great space to talk more about the Make Omaha and get some of that feedback. A lot of people who be good advocates. We've been working on trying to formalize some working groups around things like how we promote what's going on in the community in really important projects like we Make Omaha. So that's a good opportunity. That'll be it for me. If you're free to come into there and chat more, I'll unfortunately be on LinkedIn for a work event, but still an opportunity and
Thank you. As a committee that's combined, do you feel like, you know, the equity and engagement, yeah, station for all sectors, is it learning, omission from the committee?
Yeah, I don't think there's necessarily a mission. I think again, going back to why we got invited in the first place, obviously housing is a need in our community and there's meant to be components to that. We also know there's a lot of the plans, things are happening, development that's going on in our community, and so why have 2 separate meetings, why not just come together and have more people having the same conversation. So you had a lot of engagement, again, had a lot of speakers come into the committee, and so we're just looking for ways that we can actually have some action. So things like we make Omaha, things like some of these other things are helpful for us, because we can actually give something to the committee to do, and so helpful. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Questions for Ashley? Anybody interested in becoming? Seeing none, we're gonna keep recruiting, actually. Thank you. Did Mike say it before?
Oh,
One thing I can tell you is that we're working on having upcoming meeting, we're gonna have Pete Jensen, with regard to overview of the videos that all understand more.
Great. Ask Steve the hard question. About the regard. Thank you. Question for Paul that he may not be able to answer. Question, Mike. Here. Thank you. Seeing none, Kent. Floor is yours.
Okay, Natural Resources Committee, we got 2 different things here. One is that we're actually meeting as a subcommittee this afternoon. We're talking about the framework of restructuring some of our subcommittee work groups to better align, support the climate action and resiliency planning effort. So that's kind of a work in progress. I can see some things will work a little bit, some things will stay probably kind of the same. But one of the things that will probably stay fairly much the same is the solid waste group, which I chair. And so one of the really exciting things, I suppose I could have used this with Rose at the outset. We had a meeting a couple of weeks ago where we talked specifically about how to handle batteries and specifically lithium-ion batteries. And those are the little pieces that are embedded in a lot of things, vape, e-sleep devices, things like that. That is extremely, there's a huge safety issue with this. When they get crushed, they kind of go nuclear. They burned at 600-700 degrees, and they create a lot of chaos in a garbage truck. Recycling facility, landfills, and more, that's an issue. We brought together a bunch of folks talking about that issue. One of the things that's exciting is that we've got a state senator that's engaged on this. And it looks like we're going to try to pursue what's called extended producer responsibility. It's an enabling statute at the state level that simply gives you the opportunity to then kind of turn over collection of, so in this case, batteries to really the producers and the folks who manufacture stuff. And so it becomes a closed loop. It keeps stuff out of the landfill. It addresses the safety issue, and it provides a way to get those metals, which are extremely valuable, lithium, magnesium, et cetera, back into the production chain and so on. That also allows the public sector to get out of the business of having to deal with that stuff. So another economic benefit to local jurisdictions, and oh, by the way, this little property tax discussion going on in Lincoln, that's a piece of that. How do you get to some of those things?
Who was that state senator?
It is from Seward area. Janet Hughes. Yeah. And there are several line behind her too, I think. So ongoing discussion. Yeah, that's from a solid waste standpoint. You know, I talk about it all the time. But that's a cool thing. I think we've got some momentum, which is that's what I have for resources.
Thank you. Thanks for that. And Ken, you have a robust representative committee. Are you recruiting additional members for next resources?
Well, I think we will, once we kind of revamp the structure, subcommittees and so on, solid waste stuff. We have 45-ish people on solid, helping me lead the Zoom thing the other day. That's going well. Some other components that are pretty good. We want to see where we can get some alignment. Find action stuff, and then I think we will actively go out and say, hey, we've got some things here, and I think we'll have something a little more substantive for people to hang on to. So we don't need to kind of push the membership thing. Yeah.
When you do raise your hand, okay. All right, saying none. Thank you. Joining the committee, contributing in any way, or if you have a request for the city committee to come do a thing in your place, you make sure this information and committee goes up to the it's our respective communities. Map updates. Who's going to strategic plan?
I'm gonna do it today. I will just say, if you haven't signed up for our newsletter, it comes out about every other month. It's just a good way to keep in touch with what's going on at MAPA. There were a couple of handouts here. You've got our MAPA strategic plan. So we did, let's see, this is our second one. So at the end of 20, I don't remember exactly what we did. So this is our second year of work under this new strategic plan. It's a 5-year strategic plan. So last year we debuted that with the plan of work for fiscal year 24. So what this looks like today is, slides are messed up, but so it takes a look back. It just talked a little bit about the process, the vision, and then these are our strategic directions on the inside here. So this is kind of our guided work that came from work with the board and work with our staff to see like where we want it to go. So if you look on the inside for each strategic direction, there is kind of outcomes based on our fiscal year 2024 work, as well as some recommendation for fiscal year 2025 and the so. If anybody has questions, the link for this should be on the first page. So if you wanted to take a look at that site, you can go ahead and look at that. I'm also showing quickly our equity assessment. We've been doing this for a few years as well. So in June of 2020, the MAPA Board of Directors passed an equity resolution and measured our work in 8 areas, kind of 8 areas where we want to become more equitable and try to move equity forward. One of those, the last one, the 8th one, was to do an equity assessment every year. So 2021 was our first one. We do this annually. There's the link up there. So what it does is it gives this action item for this area that we need to work in, and it shows what work we did in the past fiscal year with a score for that work on this 5-point scale. And then it also talks about work in progress we'll be doing for the upcoming fiscal year for each of those 8 categories. And then on the back is, if we've mentioned something, you know, throughout the document, these are kind of a little bit of explanation and more information on the back. So a little kind of glossary of some of our equity work. And there's a QR code if you want to take a look. We also have our upcoming Council of Officials. This is our annual meeting. So we do this in October, so Wednesday, October 9th. Our featured speaker is Kevin Bell. He is with the Rail Trail. Who's going to tell me what the correct name is? Rail Trail. So one of the other events that is coming up the week before that is another Iowa Rail Trail Summit. Iowa Trail Summit on October 4th. And then also this weekend in Omaha, I designed Omaha, so 34th, so this Saturday, Sunday, if anybody wants to take advantage of that opportunity to check out places. We also have a room on the agenda for public comment. If anyone would like to make a public comment, you know, public. And then these are upcoming meetings. Our next meeting here is October 4th, and then our council officials annual meeting is October 3rd.
Great, and so information you want. I have a question for you. Escapes me.
Good.
Yeah. Let the minutes show that. Question for Laura. And or community updates that anybody wants to share.
Cass County, an application for a 265 megawatt solar. 150 megawatt battery storage. These projects to work, that storage is going to be key. So, you see the storage component there. Pretty young technology, in my opinion. We'll make sure it's done right. And with the secondary consultant reviewing the application, just make sure everything's in order. And yeah, pretty good in quality control. And just, let's say, making sure that right. Well, once the consultant does his review, his second review behind, we could be looking at a planning meeting, right, somewhere with like September possibly. Board commissioners after that. And control that we get as much as through as possible before the first year. That's an exciting project.
So I get to serve on the curriculum committee for leadership. We met this week to flesh out the different monthly seminar. This year kicks off in September. And so for some of the seminars are opportunities for folks to hear to engage and need people to be a part of introducing certain aspects of the community to our leaders. So government, equity, city environment, and development, you good to be a part of it. Mike, kind of to sort of serve as a holistic presenter for spring. So you reach out and you engage, or I think they to being late fall or spring for those It'd be great to tell the story of this consortium and just some of the things that are community, so stay tuned for that. Class 49, this is class 42. Any other?
So the city council, well, community, but or help developers who want projects are specific designations. Workforce. The huge designation board is also going to help kind of, drive more development in our community. We are currently working with Mills County on the ADA agreement that will now annex county. It's being driven by a very large industrial section of 29 and Bungie Avenue here. 500 million, 300 employees associated with it, very large, and that's quite a big sector. Getting in those counties, so just to kind of reiterate, this area is growing. That's being driven by our continue to work with that effort, and then I was just running the numbers yesterday. We were approved 5 in the city, and just between what's been permitted and what's planned, in the next 3 years, all these projects, we're bringing close to 12 to 1,500 units, which is really kind of. I'm talking to my team, and all the industrial development, the data center, trail. I really can't think of more. Maybe the transcon. We're all art. We all feel. Maybe it's happening when you're just happy part.
That's great. When you endorse it, it's kind of 125 years ago. Congrats on the I would say for the and members, welcome and roll with us. Invite them to be to have form. Let's make sure you have form.
Really like long term, like day to day, but I get another one of my roles that's leaving because we are now doing a huge night developer symposium every year. So the next one will be the first week of June, probably June 5th and 6th. And even if you are based in obviously the greater Omaha metro area, lots of good opportunities for students. We're bringing in the Downing brothers this year. Speaker, they have a show on TV, backyard board, developers from Chicago. So another community with similar problems and issues around housing and that. But they'll be tasked for brand new people in development, people who are already in the development space and trying to get different projects, contractors, those of us who are practitioners in the policy side. This year we're also going to offer most of the tracks for developers and contractors in English and Spanish. So if you know anyone who's interested, save that date. If you know anyone who's interested in sponsorship, please talk more. It's a really exciting kind of event in our community to talk very much about how we actually do something about affordable housing and how we are developing in our community. So.
You said June 9th?
June 5th and 6th.
Thanks for sharing that. It's killing. That's awesome. Anybody else? Where we get 3 minutes back in your motion to adjourn. Oh, wait, we don't have one. Thanks to our presenters. And thanks everybody online for joining us. I guess I didn't really make sure that did anybody have anything online to share? Nope. Okay.
Nothing to add, just thanks for the invite, and it was a pleasure to be here and sit through the discussion. Thank you.
Thanks, Derek.
Excellent.
Thank you.